Because our AGM was obviously delayed, we're looking quite far back, so I hope you will bear with me and try and remember what we did in 2019. So as ever, we started the year with a fantastic walk with Bob Tompkins around the lanes of St Mary's. And then we started planting trees. 2019 was a year of planting trees, without a doubt. So we started the year and we planted 160 trees at La Coupe, which is a beautiful site, and the hope is the trees will grow very tall and might help improve the landscape and possibly hide one house that's rather prominent there at the moment. And then also the lands team were busy coppicing willow at the back of St Wan's Pond, which is a regular activity in order to maintain diversity. And these are some of our volunteers busy planting. We've got Bob there on one side, and I'm not sure who the lady is on the other side, but she's hammering away with gusto, which is great to see. And then also this is our lands team, and this is with Sophie Bird from Channel Television, who does the weather, and she often sometimes comes on sites and does the weather report from where we're working, which helps promote the work of the Trust. February, World's Wetlands Day, that was celebrated. We're focused on climate change, and we're taking an increasing interest in climate change, although many of you will remember that we took a keen interest in climate change when we painted the White House green, which was met with an interesting reaction. I think it's probably the best way to describe that. But also we've done some property refurbishment work, including at La Valette, where we did some minor works to improve before new tenants moved in. And also one of the largest things we did was a new cobbled driveway at the Elms. The driveway had suffered potholes for years, and we'd received a number of complaints from visitors, but Bob Lamotte put a scheme together, and then we got the driveway finally finished. And I hope everyone will agree that it's a considerable improvement, and that was when we decorated it for Liberation Day. And then also Leland School came to New Street to learn about Georgian cookery. And I think what's lovely about when you see these photos is about the smiles actually and the enjoyment that the children are having when they come and visit our properties. In March, a series of workshops. We do lots of workshops which are always increasingly popular, including grafting apple trees, which Vincent Obbard from Samray Manor helps us with. But also the Butterfly Theatre came to New Street with a new production called Secrets Unlocked, and that proved incredibly popular. And also the lands team went to help Vincent Obbard at Samray Manor to do some grafting so that we can protect the gene bank for the cider apple varieties, because we've lost some trees and we want to make sure we've got enough in order to protect that important gene bank. April, well, we had our AGM as we normally do, but also what was really important I think at that time is the land went through court for the fields at St Catherine's, the coastal fields along Pine Walk, and I think we were incredibly fortunate that a benefactor came forward to help cover the costs of that acquisition. I think it was a great shame in some ways that the states decided to sell that land, but fortunately we were there to pick it up and to make sure that that area is protected in the longer term. We also won an award for the foot buildings from the International National Trust Organisation in the category Open for Business. And there you can see that those beautiful fields. Some sort of apologies for the rather blurry nature of the PowerPoint. And then people enjoying themselves outside locks, and it's really, by restoring those buildings, it's a great example of heritage regeneration, bringing life back into old buildings, some of which people said should be demolished because they'd reached a rather decayed and decrepit stage, but just shows if you invest in them, you can bring life back into these important areas of town. In May, we had the Love Nature Festival, over 500 participants enjoying different things, including bug safaris, bat detecting, and also Professor Dave Goulson came over and gave a talk on gardening to save the planet, which infused us all, I think, that we needed to do more. We also did some refurbishment works at the officers' quarters at Brelade Barracks in time for the new season. And then open milling took place, and we now use local wheat which is grown by Latashua Farm to make flour. And this was done by the Sandman down at St. Wan's to promote the Love Nature Festival. With the swallowtail butterfly, because that's one of the species that we have at Victoria Tower, and our conservation officer's been busy working there in order to try and bring them back, and we had caterpillars there this year, so that's a good sign. And this is some of the refurbishment work that we undertook at the officers' quarters. And again, children enjoying open milling day. And even the boys are wearing jersey bonnets, so that's good to see. And in June, the Trust Wildflower Meadow, that's matured really nicely now, and it's in full bloom, and we're attracting a great deal of insects to that site. And a lot of you will remember it used to just be a plain lawn, so it was very neat and tidy. And it's not so neat and tidy now, but it is providing a lot of biodiversity and supporting insect life. And we're repeating that at Lefevre, and we're looking for other sites to do that amongst the holdings that the Trust cares for. We had the sunset concerts at Gronte. Again, that was an incredible success. And also we had the Army medics helping us to do conservation work on the basis that they could use some of our sites, such as Cat Fort and Victoria Tower. And then we started doing some refurbishments at our office space at the Elms because we were starting to grow out of that space. So we turned the former meeting room into additional office space. And then Karen Taylor, Director of Planning for the National Trust, England, Wales and Northern Ireland. I'm not sure if she's here this evening. There she is at the back. She came to assist us in starting to put our submission together for the new island plan. And Karen's continuing to help us with that task as we head towards a new mini plan as opposed to a full island plan. So there's the Elms with the front lawn in full flower. People enjoying the sunset concerts. And then Karen meeting Mike Stenterford to discuss the national park and the future plans. July, we had the 30 Bays and 30 Days, great fundraising event. We raised just shy of £16,000, and that's continued to grow. And in fact, we had a huge response this year during COVID. So it's fantastic to see that event just go from strength to strength, because at one stage, actually, we did think it wasn't really going to attract a lot of interest and we were going to cancel it. But thank goodness we didn't, because people really enjoy that event and exploring our coastline at the same time. We won a STAR Award, no less, for the Wetlands Centre. And also HSBC helped us to undertake some key conservation tasks. And we started our summer activities, including rockpool rambles, bug safaris, and flower power. Here's some of the swimmers. And some children enjoying their rockpool ramble. They're looking very intent there. I'm not sure what they've discovered, but... In August, we produced some new identification booklets for our activities, and also the volunteers for the Elms Wall Garden. They won a well-deserved Jersey in Bloom Silver Award. And then we handed over the keys to Greve de Lec Barracks to Art House Jersey in that new partnership, and we finished creating the self-catering accommodation to facilitate that. And then also we started to highlight the lack of planning enforcement at Simel Sand Quarry, which I'm sure some of you have read an interesting letter in the JP in the last week or so. And this just shows the accommodation, refurbished accommodation. And we created 2 new self-catering units there. And we tried to ensure that the historic integrity of the buildings was safeguarded, so it was quite light touch. September, Heritage Open Day takes place. We just had under 1,800 people taking part. And we also had our annual thank you party for all our volunteers at Lefevre. And the Amy Filial Award was given to Christine Burnham for her outstanding volunteer commitment over, gosh, probably at least 30 years. So that was well deserved. And we also supported Save Jersey's Heritage Alternative Redevelopment Scheme for Bar Street. Unfortunately, we failed on that one, but I think it was worth highlighting. These are the volunteers enjoying drinks at Lefevre. And this is the alternative scheme. Again, it's unfortunately it's pixelated, but I think what we were trying to demonstrate is that you could still have the hotel, but you could also have the listed buildings. And we keep pushing that argument in that you can have redevelopment without having to destroy our built heritage. In October, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of Line in the Sand, and we did that with the National Park guys down at the Francis Ware Centre. And we launched an online petition. We published our Plemore book. We collected coins for Coastline. And also, we were fortunate we acquired 3 small coastal strips down St Wan's Bay, 2 of which were kindly donated by Mrs. Bizier. And we put new signs up to indicate those sites that we'd acquired since the Coastline campaign was launched. And Black Butter took place, and we had some visiting parties from Brittany and Normandy who definitely added a new dimension to Black Butter making with dancing and singing, and they were quite good fun, really. So hopefully they might come back when things are less restricted. And that was our petition, the Plemore book. We still have plenty if anyone wants to buy one. And these are the signs that we put up. This is at Devil's Hole. And this Puffin came out to try and promote collecting coins for Coastline. November, we joined forces with Jersey Electricity and Jersey Water and Trees for Life to start planting 6,000 trees above Muria Valley, a major woodland planting scheme. And Jersey Water and Jersey Electricity very generously gave us £40,000 towards that work. And actually this last week we've been doing clearing with Jersey Electricity staff ready for planting some more trees this year. We also undertook some recutting and burning at St Wan's Pond, and 300 children attended outdoor learning at Ketterville Mill. Also, we started our hedge fund scheme to plant 10 miles of hedgerows, and we've done this in association with Jersey Royal, and we did succeed in that target of planting 10 miles of hedgerow between Roselle and Durrell. And hopefully some of you will have seen these stakes with yellow painted on the top, and that indicates where we've planted hedging. And the intention, we've got the funding in place to do further planting this year, so the idea is to plant another 10 miles this year. So there's Georgina and Johnny, Chris Ambler and Gerard Farnham for Trees for Life, and Helia Smith from Jersey Water. And this shows some of the challenges that our lands team has. As you will remember, it started raining pretty much from mid-October onwards, but they still had to cut the reeds, so they were burning whilst also being in a boat, which is an interesting way of approaching it, but shows some of the challenges. And then this is some of the children receiving some information about the mill from one of our volunteers. And then 16 New Street for December was decorated rather lavishly with the support of Ashburton, and that actually, I think, transformed the house for Christmas. And also our conservation volunteers undertook a morning of hedgerow planting in St Martin. And also people very generously started buying our virtual gift cards so that we could plant more hedgerow. And heads of terms were agreed for Le Marinel, which I will come to a bit later on. So just a few facts and figures for the year. Visitor numbers were pretty steady. There was a growth actually, especially at Ketterville Mill, over 2,000 visitors. New Street, just over 7,000. And then with our education programme, which had been funded by HSB at that point, just over 4,200 children involved with the education programme. We staged 144 events with over 11,000 people being involved with those events, giving us an income of just over 12,500. And also in terms of our social media, that continues to go from strength to strength. So we've got just over 5,000 likes on Facebook and Twitter. We've got 4,700 followers. But a lot of this couldn't happen without our volunteers, who play a key part in what we do. There's over 140 volunteers assist the Trust in 2019. Sometimes it's quite difficult to count them all, because some people could just come in for certain events and then we don't see them for a while. But there's a huge amount of support from our volunteers, including our council, advisory panels, room stewards. You know, there's a huge remit of what people help us to do with the important work of the Trust. I think this just shows you the range of tasks. So we've got people there polishing copper and silver for 16 New Street. Then we've got the Lemaitre brothers doing milling and bagging up the flour. And then we've got Mac McCready there, who's dressed up as a miller. So our volunteers do get asked to do lots of different things, and we're very fortunate to have their real commitment and enthusiasm, because that's what helps make the Trust tick. We also have our financial partners, our corporate partners. Again, without their support, there's a lot that we wouldn't be able to do. HSBC supported our education programme for probably over 10 years. Ashburton supported our sunset concerts and also the Christmas decorations. We've mentioned Jersey Electricity, Jersey Water. Countryside Enhancement Scheme, they've given us over £50,000 this year to help with the hedgerow planting. And the Roy Overland Charitable Trust helps us with the hedge fund and also the Birds on the Edge programme. So it really does make a difference to have that support. Just to give you a quick flavour of our income over the year, so bequests and donations, we're very fortunate to have just shy of £300,000 come in, but rental income continues to play a key part, and it's gone up now to 557,000. Investment income just over 155, and subscription income, what Stuart's alluded to, 87,000. So if we can double our membership is what we want to do, and that would bring in another £87,000 for us. And sponsorship, you know, we're really fortunate to have that high level of sponsorship. You know, £200,000 is an amazing level of sponsorship that was secured in 2019. Everyone loves the pie chart, but it just shows you, I think, how important the rental income is in relation to the rest of our income. But also bequests and donations are a key part as well. And then how do we spend the money? So a lot goes on property and land maintenance, over 750,000. That included the work that we did for Grevillette Barracks. Also, we had some money to pay for the foot buildings, and also the depreciation, which we'll speak about in a minute. Obviously, staff salaries for the properties team and lands team, and also some small expenses for Le Marinelle. Administration expenses about 344,000, but that includes staff costs for accounts, management, events, operations, museums, fundraising, and general management. And our sponsored projects, 178,000, but obviously we had sponsorship income to counterbalance that, 207,000. And that just shows how that expenditure is split up. So in terms of the overview, our income exceeded our expenditure, which is always good news, by 58,000. And that was in part due to the very generous donations and bequests that we received that year. And some of that money went to help with some of our key projects. There has been a change of accounting policy. So third-party capital costs for property refurbishment, which is focused on increasing our rental income, is now capitalised. And it was felt that this was a better way of showing how we were using our money in order to increase our income and obviously our rental income, which is a key part of what we do. because of the costs that we needed for the refurbishment works, because we'd spent a lot of money on the foot buildings, so we didn't have a lot of cash flowing around, and the foot buildings cost us more than we envisaged. We did take a small amount from our investment portfolio, £250,000, in order to cover the costs for the barracks works, but that has resulted in a 13% increase in rental income, which will continue to grow this year. Despite COVID, it will still grow. We do still have a considerable backlog, a repair backlog of around £4 million, but in part that's because the Trust has been determined to save such buildings as New Street and the foot buildings. If we hadn't done those projects, then undoubtedly we would have addressed more of our repair backlog. So that's always the dilemma that the Trust faces. Do we save a building forever and for everyone, or do we repair what we've already got? And sometimes we do, because we're passionate about what we do, we go and try and save these buildings, but that does mean that sometimes some of our repairs have to wait. But we always try and make sure that the buildings are kept in a certain state so they don't get to the point where it's causing irreversible damage. But we are looking for imaginative ways of trying to refurbish our buildings and new partnerships, and this is particularly pertinent for Morrell Farm, trying to find if there's a partner that would wish to use the building for a long period of time and they would invest in its refurbishment, thereby saving us money but ensuring that the buildings were kept in good repair. So, looking to the future, fit for purpose. So we, we announced last year, we have a business plan and we're working hard with that business plan. And so we've appointed a new operations manager and a properties manager to strengthen our skill base. And about 50% of the action points within our business plan we've either started or completed. So we're making good progress, but there's still quite a lot to do. And we're undertaking a review of that business plan in light of COVID, and I'm hoping to bring something before council towards the end of the year. So we said that one of the key things for us was the membership campaign, and Stuart's highlighted that also as one of his priorities. So we're working with a local agency, the Idea Works, and what we're trying to demonstrate in terms of that membership campaign is about supporting us because you believe in what we do as opposed to what you might get. So a lot of people, they'll ring up and they'll say they want to be a member and they'll say, well, what do I get for my money? And we want to have a mindset, so actually they ring up and say, we want to join you because we believe in what you do and what you do for the island. And so that's what our membership campaign is going to focus on. And actually, that has proved to be a benefit to us during COVID. Because we haven't had a lot of people cancelling their memberships because they can't get into our properties. They've actually carried on supporting us, whereas if you look at our friends across the water, National Trust of England, Wales, Northern Ireland, because they're running much more of an attractions business and it's less causal, it's much more transactional, they've suffered terribly during COVID. So we want to emulate what the Woodland Trust and the RSPB have done, and we've started to come with some ideas. These are hot off the press and they're still subject to further scrutiny and development, but I'd just like to show you where we're hoping to go. And so what we're proposing is that we focus on the fact that the National Trust cares for the national environment, cares for our historic buildings, and we're trying to do that in a positive but humorous way, but also highlighting that there are key issues. So this talks about the cuckoo, and who cares if the only way to hear a cuckoo in Jersey is via a Swiss cuckoo clock. But it's about making people aware that, the cuckoo used to be locally extinct. They've been locally extinct for about 14 years, but I do think we might have had one cuckoo this year which bred successfully. So that would be a very promising start. And also we've done it with the owl, saying who gives two hoots about the loss of Jersey's wildlife habitat? We do, join us now. So we've got some further development to do, but that's the direction that we're heading. And also, within our 3-year business plan, we emphasised that we wanted the trust to remain a safe haven of last resort, where things were at risk. And I think we've always stepped into the breach in that respect. So we're working to secure the future of Le Marinel in St John's, which in part dates from the 15th century. It's in quite a poor state of repair, but it's an incredibly important Grade 1 listed farm complex. So we've agreed heads of terms for a 125-year lease, and now we're looking at the financials to make sure that that will work for us. It's probably a project which will require in the region of £5 million, so it's a huge project. The trust doesn't have that sort of money available, so we would have to fundraise in order to deliver that. We're also working to secure the future restoration of Simnel Sand Quarry in St Wands, and we're beavering away in the sense that we're keeping the pressure on. The owners were meant to deliver a restoration plan 6 years ago. That should have been enforced by the planning department. The planning department haven't enforced it. And so we're throwing a light on the fact that these things haven't been done. And obviously there was a letter in the post last week, and we are replying to that, so you will see our reply in the post on Monday. But it's really important. We're the only place in Europe that's still extracting duneland sand. And we are going to have to import sand, so why not import it sooner rather than later and save the remaining duneland that we have? And there is really no argument to just carry on digging a hole and filling it with water. And also we want to have a more holistic management plan for St Wands Bay. I think a lot of you will have seen that everyone's loved St Wands Bay during this summer, but also it's coming under increasing pressure. So we need to think about ways that we can manage that effectively. And we're working with someone in this room, not far away, to come up with a management plan for the Bay, which we hope then we can encourage our politicians to take an interest in, as well as our colleagues at the National Park. This is Le Marinel. So it's quite an unassuming building. What happened, I don't know how many people are familiar with Le Marinel. It's in St John's, but essentially the family built a new house in 1870 on higher ground, and then they shut the doors on their old house, and it's not really been changed since that time. So it's an incredible time warp. And this is one of the rooms upstairs, what we call the Blue Room, and it has this beautiful Georgian panelling. It also has some Delft tiles going around the fireplace, and it also has some painted wall hangings. And then they left lots of items in the house as well, which adds to the interest of the property. So actually in that basket there's family photographs as well as a cricket bat. And also in terms of, part of our business plan is also advocacy and policy. So we're working with the Department of Environment and Fiona Fife Associates to review boundaries of the National Park. We've always argued that the boundaries of the National Park didn't work along the North Coast and that they needed to be more substantial and have more meaning and protect coastal landscape, not just the cliffs. And I'm delighted that actually there was a workshop yesterday. Revised boundaries have been drafted, which will be quite exciting to see how people react to those, but it could make the National Park a much more meaningful entity. And there is talk as well of the marine environment being included within that national park. And so the Blue Marine Foundation are pushing for a marine park in order to protect our marine environment, including sustainable fisheries. Nothing's yet been fully agreed. Again, this is a draft, but potentially, if the politicians and everyone else agrees and we get agreement with the French, the idea is that the marine park would be in the shape of a J or something quite similar, and it would protect the shallower areas as well as the offshore reefs around Jersey. And it would be the largest marine park in Europe, potentially. So it's quite exciting, really. It would be remiss of me not to briefly touch on COVID. As Stuart has alluded to, I think the Trust has been incredibly fortunate because of the way our business model is, in that the impact of COVID has not been as great as with other charities. We have lost some income, rental income, some of that was delayed, but also museum income's reduced, and fundraising opportunities also have reduced as well. And so as a result, we've been very cautious. We have put recruitment on hold and we're not doing any major capital works. But I think, as Stuart has said, we've done incredibly well. And personally, I would like to thank all of our team because I think it's been a great time of uncertainty. You're not sure what's happening. And then you're being asked, right, come on, we've got to gear up, we've got to deal with this, we've got to make sure that our members are still engaged with the work of the Trust. And they've really come up and met the challenge head on. So I'm enormously grateful to everyone. We had a fantastic activity hub at one stage with lots of exciting things for people to do. And our walks proved incredibly popular, whether they be guided or self-guided. And so there was a real appetite. And I think what COVID has done, as it's alerted everyone to the enormous value of our natural environment and every reason really to protect it, so we can make sure that those who follow on also have that opportunity. And this is just a little quote which I came across, and in every walk with nature one receives far more than he seeks. And I think that's absolutely spot on during the COVID crisis. And we've just had a walking festival, generally sponsored by Jersey Water, and all the walks sold out on that festival within a couple of weeks. What we are planning to do, subject to us securing sponsorship, we're hoping to have a spring and an autumn walking festival next year. So we are trying to deal with demand, and also Donna's trying to get funding so that we can do some more walks just on a regular basis as well. So some of our achievements during 2019. So the creation of self-catering units, Grevlet Barracks, the establishment of a new woodland above Muria Valley, establishment of our new hedge fund, 10 miles of hedgerow, acquisition of 3 coastal strips in St Juan's Bay, publication of Plamore book, and agreement of heads of terms secure the future of Le Marinelle. So these are just to name a few of our achievements. But none of this, as ever, would be possible without your support, your commitment, and your enthusiasm. So, this is a team effort. It's not just about the staff, it's not just about the council, it's not just about the volunteers, it's also about our members, and it's also about those people who support us who may not even be members, but still support the work we do. So thank you very much for enabling us to do so much in 2019 and also to get through 2020 with enthusiasm and commitment still intact, I think. So that's my presentation.